2025 Ironman Texas. Let's get rolling here. The race kicks off April 27th, so let's dive in and figure out what we need to do beforehand. First up, please like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. If you need any coaching tips, tricks, advice for this race and beyond, please feel free to reach out. My contact info is down below. And with that, let's dive in. Brand new website if you haven't been on one of the Ironman sites lately, but this is what the new landing page looks like. I personally like it. We'll get into that why later. Lake swim, flat bike, rolling run, classic air temperature. The high is going to be about 80, mid 80s. Low in the morning is going to be about low 70s, mid 70s. So you have a 10-ish degree swing there. Again, that's just typical temps, so they could be plus or minus 10 to 15 degrees on either side there, mostly on the higher side. Average water temp is 74, so plan ahead there. Rolling up ahead, we don't have the athlete guide out officially for the 2025 race, so we're going to be rolling on past info for everyone. Um, and this is our event schedule for the year. First off, Wednesday, April 23rd, things kick off with athlete check-in and timing chip pickup available 1 to 5 p.m. Most things are going to be at Waterway parking lot, so we're going to skip over location. Just know that it's there. Village opens, athlete briefing in English kicks off at 2, and again, athlete briefing is at 4 again. So you got two options there on Wednesday. Thursday, the 24th, we got the shakeout run happening at 8. We got athlete check-in timing chip pickup 9 to 5, so pretty much open all day. Swim course tips and tricks speaker happens at 10:30. Uh, Again, race briefing happens at 11 a.m. or excuse me, athlete briefing happens at 11 a.m. First timer Q&A an hour later at noon. One is the Pro Series panel. I don't know who's going to be there, but it should be a good one. Athlete briefing in English at 1, Spanish at 3, welcome banquet at 5:30 Friday, April 25th. Practice swim 7 to 9 a.m. We marked this down earlier, but athletes must check in prior to this, same as last year. And we're going to go through the athlete guide. You can see that really quickly there. So you must check in before doing this. If you don't have your athlete wristband, you won't be able to do this. Um, Speaking of athlete check-in, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Mandatory bike and gear run check-in, 10 to 4. Race day nutrition speaker happens at 10:30. English athlete briefing happens at 11. English and Spanish is at 1. Magic hour finish line photo op happens 4 to 5 p.m. on Friday. Saturday, race day. Transition opens from 5 and closes at 6:15. Drop personal needs bag and morning clothes bag at the North Shore Park. That is from 5 to 6:30. Male pros kick off at 6:25 with the females 5 minutes thereafter at 6:30. We got the XC swim start 6:34 and 6:38. We got the age group rolling start. Morning clothes bag pickup. You can pick that up later, 9 to 1 a.m. On Sunday. We also have the Ironman Villages open all day and the mandatory bike and gear checkout 5:50. It starts and it lasts until 1 a.m. on Sunday morning. And that is your race day. If you wanted to look at it on like the last year's athlete guide, scrolling down to the pages, this is what it looks like in last year's athlete guide. It's going to look pretty much the same this year from what we just listed there. Also, athlete check-in, it's going to pretty much remain the same. Pre-race info, that practice swim that we talked about earlier. Last year, similar thing. You got to check in before you can do this. If you don't check in, have your athlete wristband, you won't be allowed to participate. Gear bags. I don't expect there to be any major changes this year from last year on the gear bag front. Things are pretty peachy key there. The white bag is your morning clothes bag. You're going to drop that off at your swim start. Bike gear check bag is in the transition along with the run gear bag as well. Personal needs bag, you're going to drop that off in the morning on race morning, and then the run personal needs bag is going to be for the run, of course. Scrolling down to race day procedure, we've listed that. Aid stations, this is what's pretty much going to be happening on race day this year. I would expect that Gatorade drink is going to be removed this year, but you can read up on that later as we get a little bit closer to the race. Also, I would suggest if you are really curious about it or want to be in the know, I would look at some of the other races that are about to happen, and you can get a good sense of what's going to be on the race course for you. Transition cutoff, there's pretty much everything's going to stay the same. I wanted to touch up on this because there's going to be something that mentions this in this athlete guide in 2025 whenever they decide to release it. But the race day health info, if you're feeling bad, make sure you stop, make sure you're checking in with people. Don't silent soldier it and put yourself in a deep, dark hole on race day. that you can't get out of. So if you do see something do see someone who's really, really struggling, make sure you let everyone know. Make sure you let the volunteers know. You won't get penalized for helping this athlete or helping an athlete to get safe. Make sure they're back to the transition area. That's not true. Make sure they get back to an aid station. Um, but yeah, they do specifically mention that you won't get penalized for helping an athlete who's in dire need of medical aid or assistance, which has been an update, was an update last year. So really cool stuff. Scrolling down here, qualifying, you can read up on that if you are pursuing those goals. But this is our race course this year. This is pretty much the same as last year. And if you go to the course overview here, this is what you're going to see. Really fast, before we do that, make sure you do read the course rules. If you wanted to find those, just go to the course rules. This is what you're going to get. Make sure you find out more. Rules and policies, they have updated those for this year, so it's a little bit different than last year, but most things are the same, but what could be a good refresher just to kind of glance over them. So, all right, this is our swim course for Ironman Texas here. A couple of things to note. It's probably going to be a little hot. It's going to be congested. There's going to be shallow areas in a couple different spots. Probably not going to be the fastest swim that you're going to do on the Ironman circuit. So how are you going to attack this? Well, first off, it is it's a time trial start here. So you're going to be walking in the water with a couple of different people there. It's not a mass start, which is good and bad. You really need to, if you are pursuing those qualifying slots, you are going to need to place yourself around other athletes who are similar caliber or slightly above. That's always my goal, to kind of put myself around someone who's a little bit above there. But this course is really broken down into 3 sections here. This first section is this long straightaway. Second section is the way back. And then the third section is back, that snake way to the transition area. The first section here, it's pretty straightforward, pun intended here. You're pretty much just going to go straight out. There's going to be a couple of areas, a couple places here. Um, Ideally, what you would like to do is kind of cut it off a little bit right there, but there are going to be a couple people there that are going to be pushing you closer towards that swimming line there. There's also going to be people who are dotted in between these areas here to prevent the crossover from swim course to swim course, which is really, really useful, really, really great. But in this first little stretch right to about here, this is going to be where the major battle happens, the jockeying for position. Everybody's going to be kind of finding their groove here. In this area, you're going to find athletes that are going way too hard. You're going to find athletes that are just kind of, they kind of get caught up in things and fall back into a place that they shouldn't be. So what you need to do is really know your pace. It's okay to go slightly above it for a little bit, but if you find that you get to this point out here on race day, and that point is the landmass right there. If you find that you get to this point in the landmass and you are still going hard, you need to really check in with yourself and say, hey, can I realistically sustain this over the course of this swim, and then be ready for the bike immediately? That's going to come in handy in a second. And if you don't know if you can, then you probably should drop back in pace a little bit. Let some other people do the work, and that's going to be kind of the system here for a little while. And once you get right through here, right on this point in the swim course, you should really be targeting some legs, having other people pull you along, and they will be willingly doing so right through here. And that should last up until this turnaround point right there. You're finding your feet. If you are approaching this area, and what you'll probably notice is a little stretch, probably in this area on both sides, believe it or not, is athletes slowing down. It's a really common thing to slow down before the turn in a swim. I don't know why, but it is. Most athletes will slow down before a turn. So that's an easy place to kind of leapfrog some people and get some easy places. So, pro tip for you there. I would be tailing some people, watching them just pull you along. And once you get to this point, leapfrog, 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 right? Really, I would come out of this corner a little bit hot and find the next group in front of you. It's going to be a little strung out right through this section here, but this is the point where you can really get some time back if you found yourself in a bad group or just didn't go out at the right pace, all that stuff. But this is going to be an easy point to reel back time, and you still have the opportunity to kind of recover a little bit. This is kind of a danger zone, a caution zone. I mean, if you do fall behind, the first option is you have to kind of pull back that time in this section here. If you had a good first stretch here, if you had a really good first stretch, this point should just be kind of a like a comfort endurance zone swim, just kind of hanging out a little bit. And in my mind, the technical swimmers are going to love section number 3 back to the transition area, just because of the way that it's set up. You have a couple of twists, a couple of turns. This area right here, you don't have a chicane out there. That's just the way that the GPS works. Um, but this is going to be where the technical swimmers have the advantage for sure. Weaker swimmers, you're going to be able to kind of have a false sense of hope right here, but those stronger swimmers are going to pull away here. Even the athletes that do have a better sighting ability, that's going to play major benefits in this section here. You're going to be turning into the sun probably if it is sunny, and this initial stretch right here can be a good shock to the system. You've gone from having really straight lines, really shallow areas, and then you turn in, you go into the sun, you don't know where the next spot is. You can only see 2 or 3 buoys in front of you, and that can kind of play into your strategy a little bit. But what I would encourage you to do is stay on the gas during this section here, and this is going to be another easy area, at least typically, just like we talked about down here. During these zigzaggy areas, these winding areas, it's an easy opportunity for you to kind of get some places back without really pushing the pace aggressively. Once you get to about this point right here in our race, you really want to evaluate, hey, do I need to really come off the gas? Did I go too hard? Do I need to recover a little bit? And make sure you are following up with that. If you have gone too hard, come back on it. Let those people go that you are around. Just let them kind of pull you in, or just let the group go outright. Just be careful with your effort level here. Again, double check with yourself when you cross under the overpass there. Make sure that you are at the appropriate pace for you. You should be cooling down anyways here. The swim is pretty much done at this point. And figure out what your strategy is in the transition area. And so the days leading up to the race, make sure you are in the transition zone, make sure you are walking it, make sure you are evaluating, hey, once I get out of the swim, this is going to be where I'm going to go, this is what I'm going to do. Do I need to cool myself off? Am I overheating? Really common stuff that most people miss on race day, and they're caught up in the moment. They don't really think about until mile 12 to 15 on the bike. And that's our swim, believe it or not, done and dusted. There's a couple other things, but I'll leave that up to you on an individual basis here. And this is our bike course this year. Same one that was up there last year. Um, yeah, it's an out and back course. So what's going to happen, and this is going to be one of the reasons why I do like the new core or the new landing page here. This is scrollable over here. You can kind of see what you're going to be doing on race day. Initially, when you come out of that transition zone, you're going to be going up north. This is going to be a section that you only do once. You do an out and back. You come back by the transition area, you fly, and then you do a little loop-de-loop section over here, and then you get on the out and back course starting right about here. The out and back, you go all the way down, you turn around, go all the way back up, and then once you get to here, you turn around and you do it one more time before you get back up to this spot here. Once you get back up to this spot, you don't do the loop-de-loop down below. You go straight in, and you will do a section of the course that you will only do once back through here. You zigzag to the transition area, done and dusted. This is what it looks like on if you had a GPS, right with GPS file. This is what it's going to look like. About 830 feet of elevation gain, give or take. Their site lists a little bit less, but hey ho, that's what it is. And this is what it's going to look like on race day for you. This is an athlete who has an FTP of about 245, 240 watts. They are targeting about a 6-hour day, maybe a little bit better, depending on a couple of things that we'll talk about in a second. The couple of things is the wind and the outright temperature out here on race day. Weather here typically goes in this direction. Typically goes from south to north or southeast to northwest, and that is just a typical thing, a usual thing. It might be different on race day, and that's going to dictate different strategies. This is going to be the strategy that we talk about here on this little race breakdown here, and if it's different, you need to plan accordingly to you and the weather. So when you're out there on race morning, race day, Make sure you are actively checking in, not only with yourself, but where's the weather coming from, what's the wind doing, and evaluating that and adjusting your strategy based off of what's going on. It's a long day for sure, but it doesn't mean your mind has to be quiet and just thinking about one thing the entire time. Make sure you are constantly going through your checklist on race day and evaluating what you need to do and adjust what you need to do on race day. So the power plan, let's go really, really fast here. We're going to go over it. I want you to watch this biker guy. Pretty much what we just talked about as we go down here, and I'll go down a little bit more here so you can see it over the course. As we go north here, we are heading into a bit of a headwind and before it turns around and we have a headwind again. This loop-de-loop, we get winds from all angles, and then when we get out on the main drag here at about mile 20-ish, 21, we have a headwind pretty much directly all the way down to our turnaround spot. And then we have a tailwind, and that continues for one more time here. It moves slightly to a head crosswind, but it will swirl out there for sure no matter what. And when you turn around again, we have a tailwind, and that pretty much directly pushes you home to the transition zone. So what does that mean for power production here? Again, remember this athlete had about a 240 FTP-ish. And so for those first couple of miles here, it's up, it's down. And if we really highlight this section here, we can dive down a little bit deeper. You can hopefully see that the power increases here a little bit before it sustains. We do have a couple of bursts right through here, but again, it's pretty consistent. And if we were to go over it here, right here, it's 160. If we go over here, it's 167, but these longer stretches, 160 to 165. So you're pretty much locked into one thing for there. If we unzoom here, I'm going to reset the zoom, and we're going to go back to our, this is the out and back section here, and we're only going to do this once so you can get a good little sense. That's about as flat as it gets for an iron distance, a full distance race. Again, for that first part, we were at about 160, 165. Power does increase about 10 watts. That's because of the wind. And we'll talk about the speed of the wind in a second. I don't remember off the top of my head. On this one here, again, 175, and you're pretty much holding that. On the way back, when you are experiencing a tailwind, it's going to be 153. Again, remember, 160 to 165 is what they were holding at the beginning, and you're just taking off 10 watts for the tailwind section. Easy strategy to do. Again, it's not going to be perfect for everyone. It's not going to work out. In this case, it's just an easy way to talk about it and look at it. The weather. The wind here is in the blue right here, and again, it's going what is that, south to north-ish. It's going to start off with about an 8-mile-an-hour wind. It's going to peak at about a 25-mile-an-hour wind, and that is again just usual. It will be different on race day. This is just a generality. I can't say that word right now. Time analysis here. So a couple of cool things about this race is our drag. If we improve our drag a little bit, we're going to end up saving about 1 minute and 20 seconds here. It's a little bit of a flatter course. Power, if we are to increase it a little bit, I believe that's a 2-watt gain. We are, again, saving about 1 minute 40 seconds. Weight, this athlete's 155. If they drop 2 pounds, they are saving 18 seconds. So about 9 seconds per pound. Ish. Again, not perfect, very rough estimate there. And rolling resistance, if we did improve our rolling resistance a bit, we're saving about 20 seconds for every slight improvement there. And these are all things that you could be testing out now. We do have a good chunk of time leading up to our race. If you are riding inside, I would encourage you to get out and test some of these things as best you can. I know some people are still in colder areas, but if you are to improve your drag, say you spend a little bit more time in that aero position, you're there. If you increase your power right there, you're automatically saving 3 minutes already. But keep in mind how much stress that places on your body. It might not be for you. It could be the difference between having a great run and having a terrible run. And again, I can't give you that answer outright here, just speaking in generalities. That is just something that you need to practice now to hopefully develop that in your training, so on race day you know what you need to do. But that's some of the time savings that you can really experience on race day. Really, really cool to see that weight savings. Again, if we drop it down just a little bit here, you're not really saving a whole lot of time, and that's down to the elevation here. I will say that this is a course where bigger athletes, larger athletes will have or can have more success out here just because it's a flatter course and they're more typically punchy athletes, and they just typically just eat this flat terrain up, even if it's slightly uphill. It's just like riding on a trainer out here. Before we get off that topic, a good little tip for you is a lot of athletes really, really tuck in that arrow position. Just be careful to lock yourself in here. Really common for races like this in California for and Maryland. Just lock in, right? They're stuck in that arrow position. They get in the turnaround, they get out for the first time, and then they try to get back in, and things don't feel right, and it's just a mess if they do that all day. Make sure every 10 to 15 minutes you're getting out of that arrow position, you're stomping on the pedals 2 or 3 times, getting back in, whatever you need to do, stretching the back out, whatever you need to do for you. But if you do lock yourself in there, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of issues. I don't care if you practice for hours and hours and hours on the trainer. It just is what it is on race day. You'll even see the pros getting out of that arrow position every once in a while to kind of shake things up again, even on a slight hill, slight downhill, whatever is best for you and your ride type. Zones, this is typically what you can expect out here for a race like this. The limited time in Zone 1 and Z3 on this course is down to just the elevation profile and the straightforwardness of it. Even though the winds are going to be high, you'll be in that arrow position. It's a flatter terrain on the way out. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. What I would be worried about is what the wind is going to be doing to you and your bike out there. Make sure you're watching the athletes in front of you and evaluating what they are doing on the race course in front of you. So if you have any time to see what's in front of you down the road, if there's an area where you see athletes are really getting pushed around on the bike, make sure you prepare for that, brace yourself, and get ready for the crosswinds or the headwinds or whatever it is. When you're fueling, common strategy, if the wind is coming from your right shoulder to your left shoulder, make sure you are taking your hand off of the bike that is where the wind is coming from, right? If you do the opposite, the bike gets really unstable and it gets very difficult to control. All right. Just a little pro tip for you. And that's pretty much it. Watch your cadence on that bike here. And if we go to our course outline, again, scroll through this. It's really cool. It's an awesome new feature. I like it. It's great. You can also send it to your device. It's great. Cool stuff. The next one up is our run. Run here is a 3-loop run course, and if I could not zoom out, this is what you're going to get. Scrolling down on our athlete guide, if it will load here, the course is pretty much unchanged is what I'm trying to get at for everyone here. Unsuccessfully. Here we go. The reason I'm pulling this up is for the aid stations. Likely they're going to remain unchanged. If they do, they're probably going to change one or two, not all of them. But make sure you are looking at this. Also, where the aid stations are for the bike. I skipped over that. Last thing on the bike, I promise, before we go on the run, is the penalty tent. Make sure you are watching out where that is when you do check in. Look at the map, ask where it's going to be located. That will be coming in big handy, especially with the new rules that are out there. So onto the run. Check out the aid stations out here. It is my understanding that the nutritional offerings are going to stay largely the same on the run this year versus last year. But again, make sure you check out some of the early season races to really see what's different or the same. Coming out of transition, you are going to head up there, out and back. You're going to go around up through the park down here, and you are looping around before you hit up this section over here. You're going to curl around up through here, back to this out and back over here, and then you're going to keep going out for lap number 2, doing that 2 more times for loop number 3, and you are going to, when you come back over here, you're going to hang a right-hand turn, and you're going to go right into the finish area the only time that you are doing that. The run course is listed right here. If we go over it, you can follow to the orange dot. This is our first loop, and we're looping around, and that is what you are going to get. Slightly different here than on race day. Now that I say that out loud, and we're looking at our course overview, if we go over here, you can really see here, we don't go through that finish line over here. So that is a little bit of difference between this year. This is last year's thing where there is a U-turn out here. We don't do that this year. So this course is largely going to stay the same with that one minor difference-ish. Um, and over the course of these 26 miles, you have about 670 feet of elevation gain. That's why they list this as a rolling course. You're always going to be doing something on this course, which is going to be why whatever you do on the bike is going to dictate the run a lot here, a lot. It's never really super flat. It's not as flat as you want it to. The elevation, again, it's not super aggressive out here. There is a couple places where you do have a solid hill, but it's not going to last for 2 or 3 miles out here. They're going to be more tiny mini punchers out here. And this is good and bad. The good thing is it gives variety. Variety is the spice of life out there. But the bad news is a lot of people turn off their brains when they're doing this race, and the variety can kind of hurt them. So what you need to be doing is being on it form-wise. When the terrain changes, you got to change your running form. All right. If there's a downhill, just don't let everything just slide out in front of you. Same thing on the uphills, right? What your form should change when you're going up, when you're going down slightly. Make sure you are adjusting to that on race day. Next thing you're going to be adjusting to is the heat, the weather, the temperature, the humidity, all of that good stuff. Make sure you're tracking it on race day. The bike, it's a little bit challenging. It's a little difficult. The last couple of miles on the bike, you should definitely be checking in with yourself, just like you did with the swim, and seeing what did I do nutritionally? Did I do it great? Did I miss some things? Am I low in some areas? And actively start, preparing for the run as best as possible. I don't mean, if you underfueled, just eat 10,000 calories in the last couple of miles on the bike. But you can start counteracting that, start to correct it. And on the run, it's no different. Those first couple of miles, if they're tough miles, just don't throw in the towel. It might be a different race than you expect, but if you start to battle through some of those things, and when you're listening to your body and paying attention, if you are correcting what you need out there, it's going to come in handy big, big time. And it will come back. It's not going to come back to the point where you want it to, but it will come back and you will be able to run a little bit out there. Again, this is a flatter course, so this is an area where a couple different sections are key. In my mind, this first section right through here, right about mile 5.5 or 5.8, all the way up to where we cross over, that is a key section out here on every single lap. Steady uphill. A lot of athletes, going to take a lot of athletes' souls out here. That you're going to be exposed to the heat pretty much everywhere. You're going to be exposed to the wind pretty much everywhere. When you are around the water here, watch the wind. That's true for most courses. The wind will cool you off and feel great. And when you get out of that section, that what we just talked about, steady uphill grades, steady climb, it's it's a little rough. You'll go from feeling great to feeling terrible, and this spot can kind of eat your soul and just really, really beat you down mentally. Make sure you stay mentally strong back through here. Faster athletes, the first loop might be a little bit lonely here. Mid-pack athletes, you're going to have people around you pretty much all day. And the mid to back of the pack athletes, those first couple of loops are going to be great, but you're going to have the opposite problem as the front of the pack athlete. As you keep going, less people are going to be on the course, and that can be a real motivational hit, but don't let that get to you. Stay mentally sharp and mentally strong out there, and you'll get through it. Make sure you are hitting those aid stations, keeping that run form, and watching the elements out there to have race day success. There's going to be people scattered all over the course. One of the better ones out there. Have a blast, everyone. 2025 Texas. I can't wait to hear about it. Make sure you're watching the weather and the days leading up to it. Make sure you are seeing if you should bring your wetsuit or not. And have a blast, everyone. I hope it's a great, great experience. If you do need any help, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to help you out on an individual basis and set you up for success for race day. Good luck, everyone.